Good afternoon, everybody. Prince from BMG Automotive here. Ever since the last video I did with the hybrid, I got a lot of calls and messages from hybrid owners, from technicians, people interested in hybrid, asking questions. Some persons don't know much about it, some persons don't know how to maintain it. So this is just a simple video for all Toyota, Aqua, Axio, Fila, WXB hybrid owners, right? On certain things that you should know as a hybrid owner, right? So firstly, I like to start off with safety. Anything orange, you don't touch. Orange means high voltage, and there's enough voltage in here to cause serious damage, even death. So anything orange, once you're not trained, certified, or competent, I would recommend that you stay very far away from it, right? So we will start off by going inside of the vehicle. So just behind the passenger side, in the rear, the back seat, you have the hybrid fan, right? This fan is used to cool the battery pack, right? Right here is where you call the hybrid battery pack, right? So you just have this little finisher in front here, right? So when you're sitting or you have groceries, you just try your best as possible to keep this part clear so that the fan could be able to suck in air to cool same set battery, right? So when we come across behind the driver side, you have your 12 volts AGM battery, right? I'm not going to go into the reason at the moment why it is the user AGM battery. That will be another discussion, right? So located between the 12 volt battery and the hybrid fan is what you call the hybrid battery, right? Traction battery. Orange again, so please don't touch. So then we talk about service for the hybrid battery, right? Yes, it is recommended that you service or you do a reconditioning of the hybrid battery. I would say at least every 18 months or once a year you could get your technician to do the reconditioning. What the reconditioning is you're fully charging and discharging the battery so that it would use all the capacitance that it has, right? Because the way these cars are programmed, that when it reach 40% or below 40%, I should say, the engine will come on and charge back the battery, right? So you don't ever get to use 100%, and after a while you just keep on using less, and you could damage the battery pack. I've never seen that a battery pack that was service fail, right? So that is something that you should note. You should do a reconditioning at least every 18 months or 1 year. Coming in the front, we have cabin filter that needs to be replaced ever so often. I would say every other oil change, your service, you change the cabin filter, right? So now we are in the engine bay. So we'll start off by this little gizmo here, right? This is called the inverter converter assembly. So this does exactly what the name says it does, right? It inverts and converts electricity. So from the hybrid battery on the back seat, there is an orange wire that goes under the vehicle, comes all along the left hand side of the vehicle, and it comes up to here. This is this wire here, right? This wire brings high voltage DC from the battery to the inverter converter. The inverter converter converts the high voltage DC to high voltage AC, right? Because you have two motor generators inside the transmission, motor generator 1 and motor generator 2, and motors cannot run on direct current, that run on alternating current, right? So motor generator 1, he is responsible for starting the engine. If you watch on this car, it does not have a starter. So the motor generator 1 is responsible for turning the ICE, the internal combustion engine, on, and he's also responsible for charging back the high voltage battery, right? You will bring the voltage to the inverter converter, convert it, and send it back, right? Motor generator 2, he is responsible for reversing the vehicle, and he comes on at certain speeds to help the engine move forward. We will get to that in a little bit, right? So in case of an event of an emergency, a 12 volt battery die, you have a little fuse cover here that houses. Alright, sorry about that. So as I was saying, that located in the fuse area here, you have a positive lead that runs to the 12 volt AGM battery. You could hook up the positive side here. You could use any of these nuts. You could use the engine block as a ground, and you'll be able to start the vehicle, right? Right, as I hear a misconception. No, the 12 volt battery doesn't start the engine, right? What the 12 volt battery does, it power on all the accessory. It powers on the pump for the inverter converter, the water pump for the engine, skid control. It powers on all the ECUs. So once it is the ECU not getting correct voltage, you wouldn't be able to start the vehicle, right? So moving along. So we have the engine here, right? The internal combustion engine, or you hear persons refer to it as the ICE engine, right? So you have the coolants here for the ICE engine. You have the coolants here for the inverter, right? They are parallel system, so they don't really intersect at no point in time, right? There are some IGBTs located inside the inverter converter that gets very hot, so it have a cooling system dedicated just for cooling the saloon, right? The inverter converter. Engine is to cool engine coolant, is to cool the engine, right? These fluids would need to be replaced after a certain amount of time. You also have brakes fluid here that needs to be replaced after a certain amount of time, right? Engine oil, we are allowed to use 0W20, any brand, up to you. You also have the air filter that lives here, right? So those are all of the stuff that needs to be serviced, right? So let me talk about the engine here a minute, right? So I heard many people say that, they know this engine, they see this engine in the Yaris and whatever the case may be, right? Yes, it's a familiar engine, but it have a difference, right? So I want to talk about something that I learned in school. I was learning it like this, right? Suck, squeeze, bang, blow. What is that? That is the 4 cycles of an engine. Suck, that is the intake. Squeeze, that is the compression. Bang, that is the power stroke, when the ignition igniting the gas and the air and everything. And you have the blow, which is the exhaust coming out on the exhaust side, right? That is how it works on all those Utley cycle engine, right? But here we have a Atkinson cycle engine. It's a little bit different. Let me explain it to you quick, and let me explain why it is I'm talking about it, right? So you have the intake. So piston goes down, sucking all the air, right? And the next stroke is the compression stroke now, where the piston comes in up, right? Usually in a normal conventional car, the intake valves will be closed at that point in time, say where the maximum amount of compression, so that you can get maximum amount of power, right? But a smart man by the name of Atkinson decided that he will leave the intake valves open a little bit longer, and as a result, he get a very, very, very fuel efficient engine, right? But the drawback on it now is that it has no kind of power in the vehicle. It's real fuel efficient, but it have no power. So that's how these hybrids come in here now. So there's a motor generator too, especially comes in. He would come in to fulfill or to compensate for that loss of power because of the intake valve staying 30% open longer on the compression stroke, right? So because of that now, you have the injectors that lives directly above the intake valves on them, right? So imagine the intake valves on them staying open on the combustion stroke and the piston coming up. So then you'll be losing some of the compressed air, and the compressed air coming up on it will come on the injectors, and as a result of that, you'll get plenty carbon on them on the injectors. So you would find these vehicles on them, the injectors need to be serviced more regularly than a normal conventional car, right? Because I got a couple cars already that came to the shop and persons were saying that, the spark plug need to change, or coil pack, or they get multiple misfire on the scan tool, and when it is we did some checks, it was the injector that was actually dirty, right? So as a result, you need to service the injector, you need to service the EGR, throttle body, airflow sensor, map sensor. All of these sensors on them require cleaning so that the vehicle could run 100% better, 100% at all the time now, right? So you get that, you get that nice, people that's be boosting 700 on one full up. You know what I mean? So these are some of all the things that requires to be serviced, right? So again, with the engine oil, it's UW20, transmission oil, Toyota WS. Any questions, any concerns anybody have, yes, feel free to comment under the video, or you could inbox me and we will take it from there. Thanks for watching.